Good morning, my beautiful ones. I decided to do this extra video about the intense heat wave over Europe right now that will reach its peak today on the 26th of June. And there is little or no spiritual information about this heat wave out there. So I decided to share with you my own feelings, my own downloads, my own thoughts about the meaning of this heat wave, because it is true that in some places temperatures have been measured that were higher since the beginning of since the beginning of time, since the beginning of measurements. I don't believe that those temperatures are higher than the beginning of times, because we are only one of the highly developed civilizations here on Earth, but there have been several highly developed civilizations before ours. The last big known one being Atlantis. So what is happening right now? There is this intense heat wave over Europe, and as I said, with all the electromagnetic energies kind of like coming together, it is almost melting the 3D matrix. I believe that the downloads that I perceived, and this is only my personal opinion, but I think it has value, and I wish that every one of us that has downloads, if we could share them, I think it would really help humanity, help each one of us to know what is going on, to deal better with it, and to do the best that we can with this current situation. So I believe what is happening, it is a melting of the 3D matrix. It's a melting of all old, non-serving belief systems that are still in the collective consciousness here over Europe especially, or in our DNA, in our cells, because we are being cleansed just as much as our surroundings. Excuse me. So the sun, what is the sun? The sun is the planet of consciousness. And the sun has been having strengthened activity ever since a couple of years now. And all this was foreseen by spiritual, how can I say, by spiritual beings who know what is going on Mother Earth right now. We are going through an intense shift where everything old will fall apart. Everything that is dividing, separating humanity, keeping wars alive, all this is going to melt away. And we are going through a shift of consciousness, conscious awakening, so that we can remember who we truly are as human beings, that we were never meant to be separate from each other. We were, I talked to another person the other day. It's a little bit as if we would be chickens in the illusion that we are running free, but really we are not. We are in a fence, in a big fence. So I believe that the systems that are still active, on which the earth has been, the world has been built upon, those systems are now falling apart. Because why? Because they are not serving the highest good of everyone and the highest good of earth. And the truth is, we have estranged ourselves too much from earth. And I believe that the heat wave is especially now over Europe. By the way, feel free to ask your questions in the chat below. If you have special questions, I'll do my best to answer them. But I believe that this heat wave is especially now over Europe, because Europe is one of the few continents that no longer has indigenous people. And I believe that wherever there are still indigenous people, they are holding the grid of the consciousness, a true consciousness, a true human consciousness that is living in harmony with the earth and not against earth. Because everything that we do to our mother, we do to ourselves. And our guts will always be as healthy as the earth, the soil that is surrounding us. So we cannot continue living estranged from this planet, thinking that we would be okay, that whatever we do to the earth doesn't affect us, we can then move away to another place. Well, no. Because, if you look at the spider web, we are one string in this web. And everything we do against the string will affect the entire web. And everything that affects the entire web will also affect us. So we can no longer live oblivious to the truth that Mother Earth deserves our respect. And Mother Earth is our first nourisher, our first healer. So about the heat wave, what is happening? I want to talk a little bit about the symptoms that many of us are feeling right now. I talked to several of beautiful souls that were confirming the same things. There might be nervous system discharges. Like, for example, I noticed that on my eyelid, there was a muscle on my eyelid that was constantly moving without me wanting to move it. Or the other day I was holding a glass and suddenly my hand started shaking. But it was only this one time. Then another moment I had my upper lip. I felt like there was a muscle in my upper lip that was constantly moving. So if you have those symptoms, those might be discharges of your nervous system. I believe that with this intense heat, what is happening as well is it's penetrating our DNA awake so that we can remember who we are, but it is also discharging too much energy, maybe trauma that we weren't even aware of, but that still exists and lives in ourselves, that is being discharged now through those involuntary muscle movements. So if you know that you are in good health, have yourself checked. Of course, I would never say that there is maybe nothing else going on, but if you have been to your practitioner and everything is fine, then know that these could be symptoms of this intense energetic penetration, penetrating our cells and our DNA awake, alive, back to who we truly are. Because many of us as humans, we are existing, we are functioning here on earth, but are we truly living? Are we truly alive? Alive being immensely joyful, alive being happy, alive being loving, being the conscious creator of our reality. How many people are the conscious creator of our reality? Let me know in the chat below. How many do you know? For me, it's maybe 0.5% of 100%. No, not 0.5. Maybe let's say there's 5%. I think there has still been an awakening, but I would say 95% are still asleep. And I want to talk about fairy tales because the other day I had a beautiful conversation with a young couple here in Spain, where I'm currently am. And we talked about the meaning of fairy tales. And fairy tales have, since the beginning of time, always had this grain of truth. Fairy tales are not just, beautiful stories talking about other realms. No, I always knew that in every fairy tale there is the truth. And I believe that this is why Albert Einstein already said, when he was asked, Mr. Einstein, how can we be as smart as you are? And he said, read fairy tales. And then they were asking, and how can we be even smarter than you? And he said, read more fairy tales. Because he also knew that the wisdom of this earth is ingrained in the story of a fairy tale. How so? Well, the Sleeping Beauty, or Snow White, for example, oftentimes the Sleeping Beauty, which symbolizes humanity, is falling into a deep sleep. It is not dead, but it is asleep. And this, I believe, symbolizes humanity that is kind of asleep, because we are waking up, we're going to school, we are coming out like little soldiers, like people who have forgotten that we are here in first line to be connected with each other, to be joyful, to be playful. We forget about this. We come out like little soldiers, like consumers, people that would support the systems placed here on this planet. But are we truly happy? No. Why not? Because we're living in competition. We're living in separation. We're living in division. We're living, everyone needs to be the best. My elbow or the highway, so to speak. Everyone is kind of like elevated to be the best so that they can compete in a competitive system. But it reminds me of this beautiful tribe in Africa where there were 10-year-old children, and there was a British teacher, I believe, who said to the children, okay, I'm going to say ready, set, go. And when I say go, everyone is running from one side to the field of the other. And the one who wins will earn a big basket of fruit. The children go on their posts, and then the teacher says, ready, set, go. And the children then take each other by their hands, and they're starting to walk together, hand in hand, as a line. They're walking to the other side of the football field. They're arriving all at the same time. And then the teacher said, why did you do this? Why doesn't just one of you win the fruit basket? And the children tell the teacher, well, how could every one of us be happy if only one is happy and the rest is sad? And how could this person even enjoy the fruit when this person knows that he's the only one that may eat them? So the children knew the truth and were teaching the teacher a lesson. And that reminds me of the movie Out of Africa as well, which kind of like was the same, there was a tribe member, and he said, when when Meryl Streep wanted to educate the children of the place that she owned, there was an elder who said, a very wise tribal person who said, your people are all well educated. They can write, they can read, they can, count. But what has it served them? Because they were still in war. They were still in separation. They were still in division. So I believe fairy tales always contained this truth. Sleeping Beauty symbolizing a sleeping humanity. And the prince often symbolizes the kiss of consciousness. So when the prince comes and kisses the princess, then the princess wakes up again. And then they would be living happily ever after. I was often questioning this. I was like, happily ever after? Oh, really? I have been married. I know how marriage is. It's constant work. But what I'm really talking about, what they are really talking about, is once that humanity is awake again, and we are all remembering who we truly are, that we are God, that we are source, that we have never been separated from source, and that source is not a male entity waiting to punish you if you don't do what you're being told. No, it is a source of love. It is a source of truth. It is a source of happiness, of joy, of playfulness. When you go out in nature and you look at birds, the birds are still singing, even though the heat is strong here. And it has an impact on the birds as well. We are putting bird baths here on the balcony. Every day we're renewing the water, and we see the birds coming in the morning, bathing themselves, drinking water, so to be intact for the day. But birds are still showing us the truth. Trees are still showing us the truth. Another wake-up call for those who believe that trees need trimming or the trees need cutting: be very careful of cutting trees. Because if you cut a tree down now, which unfortunately it is done in many places, apparently gardeners have forgotten that we are in the middle of summer and that the tree is in need of its intense leafy crown, so to protect itself from the heat of the sun, or otherwise it would burn and dry and die. What would happen to a human being if you leave it without water? You shave the hair, you leave it without water in plain sun. it would die, right? Well, the same is happening to our trees. So leave the trees intact, please. Do not cut the crowns off, although I believe that those of you listening to my videos, you already know all this. And obviously those who are still doing those horrible criminal things with trees, they wouldn't watch my videos, unfortunately. But anyway, back to the fairy tales. There is a truth in fairy tales, and that truth is teaching us who we are. So here are some things that you can do in order to deal with this heat the best you can. I, for example, am a very energetic and vital person. I go out and I move with my vitality. I go for walks. I connect with nature. I cannot do this right now. I have to take things slow, because if I would move in the normal speed that I move, I think I would faint with this heat. So be aware, take extra care of your body. Drink plenty of pure water. Make sure that you drink plenty of poorly mineralized, pure water. Bless the water before. Move slowly. Become very mindful about each step that you're taking. Be aware that your brain might function slower as well. Don't think that anything is wrong with you. Don't think, oh my God, I'm getting sick or something, or maybe I'm developing this disease, or maybe I'm developing this disease because I have those symptoms. Don't be afraid. If you know, as I said in the beginning of this video, if you have been checked and you know that you are in good health, know that these could all be symptoms of the heat. And the heat will have its peak today on the 26th of June. And this is why I decided to do this special video for you today. So move extra careful when you go out. Have mobile shade, use your umbrella. Either you have your umbrella that you are using. I remember when I lived in Hong Kong, this was a very new image for me in the beginning when I lived in Hong Kong, seeing people that are walking with their umbrellas in plain sun. But they knew what they were doing. They were protecting themselves from the sun. And the best thing is still to be outside, but have shade, and if it's mobile shade, like an umbrella, for example, great. I am having my hat, put a hat on your head with a big kind of like protective place so that your head is protected when you're moving. Cover your skin, obviously. Do not expose yourself during 10 a.m. until 6:30 in the evening. I would say this is when the sun, the heat is the strongest. Don't expose yourself into the sun. And if you walk outside, try to walk in the shade. Take your umbrella with you. I know that in Asia, all over Asia, they're selling umbrellas with UV protection. So you have umbrellas for the rain that have waterproof tissue, and then you have those with UV protection, protecting you from the sun. Have something like this with you, or walk in the shade of trees that have an intact crown. But try to take every step slower than you would take it usually. Drink, as I said, at least between 2 and 3 liters of waters, depending on your size, depending on your height, depending on what your body can take. But be aware to have a better intake of water now. Avoid everything that can make you jittery, like alcohol, coffee. Avoid these things. Avoid, if you can, sugar. Nourish yourself only with plant fibers if you can for a moment. Eat very organic. Eat less, because digestion also plays an intense role of your energy. Digestion needs more energy. So the more you eat, the more energy, the more heat you will experience, because the more energy your body needs. And what I do is I take a little bit of stone salt, the Himalayan stone salt, for example, or if you have Hawaiian volcanic salt, any kind of high value salt that is organic, natural, and has a lot of minerals. Place just a little breeze on your tongue from time to time. This is what I'm doing. This is helping me plenty with at least 3 liters of water a day and moving very slowly. Again, if you feel like you have any discharge, it's like nervous system, like muscles doing movements that you cannot control, and you know that everything is in good health with you, then know that this might be, it might be, as I said before, nervous system, a nervous system, or even your cells that are cleansing, that are transmuting, transforming old trauma, old information that you may not be aware of, but this is still happening. You know, I believe a lot of magical things will happen with this heat, because everything that happens here on Earth is intended for humanity's highest good, as long as it is coming from the sun, from our family of love and light, you know, galactic sisters and brothers, as long as it is coming from sources of love, it is intended for our highest good. So I hope this video is helping you, beloved soul. I don't want to make it too long. As I said, if you have questions, please do not hesitate to ask the questions in the chat below. I'm looking forward to hear your comments. Let me know what you are doing in order to deal with this heat. Let us share with our Lightworker group here what everyone is doing, so that we can all feel better, and that we are all knowing in each moment how much we are loved and supported during these times and always. Have an amazing day. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye.